Guten Morgen, meine Damen und Herren. Good morning, everybody. We come from the Estonian Military Academy. My name is Ülle Säälik, and I am an associate professor and the field lead of pedagogy. I'm responsible for different subjects related to teaching, learning, psychology, leadership, and also involved in different research projects there. I'm here together with my colleague, and he's going to introduce himself.
Good morning, Major Kirschbaum. I'm a lecturer with the chair of tactics, an aficionado of maneuverism, and also a great supporter of this country called not Russia, Slava Ukraine.
Yes, and how did that happen that we came here? When I received the invitation from Terezan Academy, I was immediately intrigued by the topic, although I'm not the expert on maneuver approach or any approach, military approach at all, sorry. I'm the expert on teaching and learning, and I'm really, truly concerned about what's going to happen with my country, with my children, with my grandchildren, and that's what intrigued me. So I approached my colleagues and asked, how are we doing with it? Are we teaching it? Do we find it relevant? And so on and so on. They agreed.
Indeed.
They said that it is highly important, and we had no clue whether we are succeeding in it already, or is there anything missing. That was the point of our research here. So, could you please raise your hand who is a student here? Okay, so did you know that there's going to be a test, the exam at the end of the event? And those of you who didn't raise a hand, do not rest assured that you are free or off the hook. No, everybody's going to be tested. Michael just told me that there will be a test, an exam, because this is a teaching and learning event. Don't forget that. Yeah, I'm joking, of course. You are off the hook. But why am I joking? And I'm not actually joking because in the education, in the higher education, I see a bigger issue. And I'm going to talk about that. I think we put a lot of effort into input. We give lectures. We give a lot of lectures in which we gather the bodies together in one room. Then we tell them a lot of wisdom. The air is thick with wisdom. They are bathing in the bubbles of wisdom, and after that we believe that they are smarter now. Or we give a long list of reading tasks, and the AI creates a short overview, and the students come to the lesson and dum dum dum. Where did you find that? Oh, generally, it's just somewhere. Okay, maybe in some subjects we can agree with that. Maybe it doesn't hurt anybody if we talk about, I don't know, philosophy, history. If they don't know Immanuel Kant by heart, they cannot cite them. Maybe it's not a problem. But I think that in the military we cannot agree with such uncertainty. If we gather people together and we start teaching, it has to be effective. And where do we see the effect is the outcome. And the outcome is what the person knows or is able to do, or how do they use the knowledge, how do you use the skills, when to use them, how to reason, why I choose this or that, and so on. I think it's a big issue. Because in higher education we focus on input, we somehow work with processing. People need several times processing the same information, and so on and so on. Maybe nowadays it's a little better than in my time when I studied. But it's still, I don't think it's still enough. We still believe in the input and everybody will be smarter. So my question was whether we are looking, considering the outcome enough. Do we actually know what our commanders need to know? How do they have to reason why they choose this or that? That was the aim. So what did we do and what did we find out? Let's see.
So, what we were looking for were the principles of maneuverism or maneuverist approach, the principles. But I start by giving you a little bit of context. So Estonian Military Academy teaches basically junior level officers. So basically second officer level education only. So while the students are taught introductory courses on strategy and operations, the basic focus remains on tactical level of war. And we traditionally it's said that the Maneuverist approach, it starts on a formation level, which means more or less brigade and higher. But due to the small, let's say, you saw not Russia again, the small country of Estonia. So we do have a really small army, and we find that we need this Maneuverist approach on much lower level, at least the principles. So where do we teach those? For the cadets, we teach those starting from company level courses, but the the main effort for this is on our master's program, which is a 2-year course. And during this course, there is a dedicated infantry battalion leadership course. And it's slightly different to very many other countries, because we don't only teach the military decision-making process there. It's focused on infantry battalion commanders level. So more or less lieutenants and captains will learn battalion commander jobs and tasks. So what do we do there? They are given 8 tactical programs that they need to come up with a decision. They need to have their assessment, their commander's intent, and planning guidances for the staff. And later on, they also have the command post exercises, where they do conduct MDMP as a whole process. And while doing that, they are in these senior positions, like a battalion commander or chief of staff. So this is the battalion level, and this is the focus of our study. They do practice on brigade and divisional level MDMP. However, during these, the commanders will be our instructors. Therefore, they will not come up with their own intent, right? Okay, so what about the Estonian perception then? So NATO doctrine has no specific definition of Maneuverist principles, no specific definition. However, it states like 8 fundamentals, and these are tempo, surprise, preemption, momentum, simultaneity, exploitation, and avoiding culmination. Now, as said, on formation level, these all should be achieved, or at least worked towards to. But on smaller level, lower level, Lieutenant Colonel Aya, who is the head of chair of tactics, came up with a kind of Estonian perception of these principles. And these were divided into 4 basic categories: avoiding unnecessary fights, adopting mission command, identifying and supporting the main effort, and implementing the combined arms. So this is not a dogmatic taxonomy. However, this is a kind of our touch, what we are looking for when we teach in Estonian Military Academy. And this is something that then we sought out to identify within these student tasks. And how we did it?
How did we do it? Let's see that we used a combination. We used lecturers' interviews. 3 interviews with leading lecturers were conducted. This helped us to understand what is our perception, because the different materials give a lot of wonderful ideas, a lot of wonderful words. Do we even know what they mean, and where do they actually should appear in the studies? Was one of the questions. And also the interviews helped us to create the method of analysis. We needed codes, categories, and what do they mean, and how do we assess where do they manifest themselves in students' work. So the interviews were used in two ways. And then we used the student assignments to analyze.
Exactly. Exactly. So the coding guidelines were applied to these two different assignments that I briefed you before. So 40 different battalion command decisions and 8 different battalion operation orders were analyzed, and by using the qualitative content analysis, we looked at both the text of these products and also the graphics. And what we wanted to find out was the clear meaning component as a coding unit. So, for example, if it was explicitly manifested, for example, let's say in an act of surprise, then it might be that commander specifically said that we need to achieve a surprise in the operation. But it could also be latently manifested. For example, if the plan had some form of high positions, counter-attacking maneuvers, and these kind of tactical activities that you usually would use for achieving surprise. So a kind of two-way approach.
Yes.
But what did we find then?
Actually, I have to apologize for the pictures. We were not allowed to take pictures on our real exercises, so we had to use the pictures of Latvians and Finns instead. I'm very sorry, Mikko, no offense. But these were quite similar to our commanders when they went through this exercise and they had to give the orders. They looked the same, and the team also looked the same. So that was we thought it's going to explain the situation in which those commanders had to work. So that's why we used those. Sorry if you feel offended, or they looked nice. About the results, yes. From the interviews, we actually found almost most of the ideas that were found in different theoretical materials. So somebody says it's a mindset, it's a way of thinking, it's a philosophy, or it's a way of thinking. And several wonderful ideas were counted. And as we have heard here already several times, there is a kind of a confusion what they actually mean. So the interviewees actually pointed out that we have to clarify what is what. And what does it actually mean, and when do we use it or when we don't use it. For example, when there is a principle of avoid unnecessary fight, and we are given the order to stand by the Narva River. Narva is the river between Estonia and Russia. And this is your order. So what is there to avoid?
Exactly. So bear in mind, we are still talking about the tactical level here and battalion level units. So the results of the content analysis are presented here. So you can see the 8 NATO fundamentals used as coding, codes. And I have highlighted, well, you can see that more or less there is a kind of a normal deviation. In every code there is some are more prominent, some are less. However, the category or the principle of exploitation is not at all present on the decision exercises, and also only one operation order had it inside it written specifically. And probably this is due that the exploitation is more, let's say, a construct for a higher level, first of all. And secondly, it is more common in offensive operations, while in Estonia we tend to focus on defensive, obviously. And secondly, the avoiding of culmination It has the same connotations as the exploitation. So this is something that we identified that we need to address when we produce orders for students to analyze or conduct. There should be possibilities for them to actually plan for exploitation. Now, secondly, about the four categories by Lieutenant Colonel Aya. First of all, the mission command. We found out that we cannot analyze this thoroughly by just looking at the products, because this is something that manifests truly while conducting the exercises on active phase on the CPX, right? So we disregarded this one. However, while implementing combined arms, you see basically zeros are almost non-existent, and all the students were very aware of how and why it's important to use combined arms. The problem was with the avoiding of unnecessary fighting. So the analysis of the enemy was actually conducted fairly good, but the critical vulnerabilities did not manifest themselves as good on battalion level, because this is something that usually brigade or division goes after with on its deep fight, right? I think we need to better try to put up these tasks and questions how battalions also can go after critical vulnerabilities. And secondly, the question of reserve. As you can see on the right bottom, in each operation order, the notion of reserve was always present. Everyone planned this because this is something that you do. But while commanders made their decisions, very few actually managed to convey this message. And of course this is due because when the staff makes the courses of action and plans a reserve, so therefore also when conducting this kind of exercises you might consider trying to pin this issue of reserve also to commanders' decisions. So, for conclusions.
So what can we say? As a NATO border country, we find the Maneuverist approach highly important, and we believe that it has to be taught in different ways on all the levels of command. We truly can say that it's necessary to teach it as effectively as possible. Why? And I quote one of our well-respected colonels, we have no other option. We have no geography. We have no resources to stand in the attrition war. We may need to use different approaches. As we have heard yesterday, Dr. Colonel said that when we are outnumbered, then we need it, and we are outnumbered compared to Russia. Or Dr. Simons, was it you who said that it has to be, the commanders have to be flexible when choosing this or that, different approaches, and we believe that as well, and that was confirmed by our leading lecturers as well. So we need to teach, and we need to think how we teach it, what do we teach, and how do we assess that it actually has reached the people's minds as well. And they said that we have to go further from the theoretical teaching. Maybe Major will explain.
So we need to better address the principles of maneuver on the tactical level when we plan the exercises for the students, when we also send them to different staff positions for practicing. We need to better explain how one can use these principles, because bear in mind, we are talking about low-level issues here, and we are not talking about dislocation as such, but using the best possible ways to overcome the enemy strengths. Okay.
Yes, there are definitely many interesting and useful methods we could use. And we can say that those methods, our lecturers need to know about those methods, how to create the change in people's minds, so that they are able to use it when it's necessary and when it is effective as well. And this is the point where our teaching staff has to think about the outcome. How do we measure it? And we also need to think about the resources, time and people, and those people need to be aware where to recognize this initiative, or when this initiative is effective, or when you just have to follow the orders and that's it. That was our point.
Thank you for your attention.